Erin, thank you so much for joining us again this week. We're excited to bring you another industry professional. This time it's from the entertainment industry. You may have heard of ESPN, but let's go ahead and get started. So, Erin, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. This is so exciting. I love speaking to high school students, so this is right up my alley.
Perfect. Would you take just a few minutes to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, my name is Erin Williams. I'm the director of production operations at ESPN Networks. We're based out of Bristol, Connecticut. That's our main headquarters. I am from New York City. Harlem in particular it was the neighborhood in which I grew up. And now I live in Bristol, Connecticut. Well, I work in Bristol, Connecticut for ESPN as the director of production operations.
Yeah, that is so exciting. I mean, I'm sure everyone has at some point watched ESPN. It's such a well-known network, and we're excited for you to be here. I know that just like everyone else, you have a professional journey from, you didn't start out at the top. You had to get here somehow. So could you tell us a little bit about your journey from high school to where you are now?
Oh, absolutely. High school is where it all began for me. In terms of wanting to be in this career. When I was a sophomore in high school, I had every intentions on becoming an attorney. That was my career goal. And then I was in an honors English class as a junior, and we took a field trip to WABC TV in New York. And as soon as I walked in, and I saw the studios and the production control rooms, I didn't know what I was looking at, but I knew I had to find out. And that's where the passion started. And from there, I changed my desired course of major at university. And when I went to the university in Washington, D.C., American University, I studied communications and immediately got a job in the TV studio there and just completely dove into television, which I've loved all my life. So that's where it began. And coming out of school, I graduated just like, most graduating seniors, hoping to get a job in my field of study. And I was very fortunate. At the time, there was this little known company called Black Entertainment Television in Washington, D.C. And I say at the time, because now they're huge, right? But back then they were, still kind of considered a mom and pop. And I was fortunate to get an opportunity to work for them and to learn the business from the ground up. I started in one of the technical areas and grew my skills. And from there, I went to other production outlets and other jobs and learned other functions and continued to rise through the ranks. And now I'm a director of production operations, and one of my favorite things to do is to work with younger people and people newer to the industry to kind of really get them in the right frame of mind for, building a career, because this is a career. It's something that you love to do. It's not a job. And I tell people that all the time, that you should always choose something as a career instead of a job. You should look at it as something that you're passionate about and want to do. And that way you feel like you've never worked. Someone has said that. That's not my quote, but you feel like you never work a day in your life when you love what you do. And I prepare people for what television is. And it's a lot of nights, weekends, holidays, early on in your career, so it requires that level of dedication and love around it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I love to hear about your journey because so many times we start out in high school thinking we know what we want to be when we grow up. But then ultimately, sometimes there's changes, and maybe you're exposed to a career path that you didn't know existed. And that sparks an idea within you to join that career path. So I love that you mentioned that. I think that's so important for high school students to hear.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you talk about director of operations, can you tell us more about what your responsibilities are, what your day-to-day activities look like?
Sure. As a director of production operations, you're over at ESPN. What I run is the production, the overall production. So when you're turning on the TV and you're watching a Sports Center show, my staff, the organization that I work with, is the team that actually puts that show on the air. So it's the behind the scenes crew, the tech crews, the audio ops, the camera operators. So you see, we have these huge studios. So people have to operate the equipment in those studios. Those are all of our teams in production ops that kind of coordinate to make sure that these shows come together. We work with production teams on the producing side, where they have producers and associate producers to put together the content of the show. And what we really do is execute. So we're the ones who make it happen. We make it so the people at home can enjoy the vision of the creatives who decide, let's put together a sports center.
Yeah. So how many people would you say are in that behind the scenes area of how many people are employed there?
Oh, at ESPN, it's thousands. But on any given production, it can range anywhere from a crew of, 15, 20 people to hundreds of people. When I think about the larger productions we do, like we just recently did the NBA draft, there's hundreds of people involved in that, hundreds of hours of planning that go into that. So, and in big teams, large teams, we meet all the time to discuss the logistics, who's going to do what and where will they be and how will we execute with precision so that people at home are having a good entertainment experience. And that's what it's all about, the fans, right? Our motto is serving sports fans everywhere. And that's what we want to do. We always want to put on a top-notch production. So everything from our graphics, so much detail goes into creating these productions, and that's what our teams do.
Yeah.
The production operations.
So, so many times when we think about television or movie, we think about how the cast has to do rehearsals. Is the crew part of rehearsals? Do you guys rehearse before a big production?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have rehearsal days built in. So if we know the productions are on a certain date, we plan, and then we have to execute. So, but before we execute for air, we want to make sure we get it just right. So we use a lot of cameras that are non-traditional cameras, jib cameras. It's a highly specialized camera that is not everyone can operate it. So we utilize that. We are utilizing all sorts of graphical equipment and servers, and we want to make sure that everything is coordinated well. So we have technical directors who are on site who are actually switching the shows, and that means they're selecting between the different cameras that are available. And there's a director on site who is telling people what source to take and what the next segment will hold. So all of that coordination goes into creating a top-notch production. So it's really a coordinated effort across multiple teams, hundreds of people. So yes, to answer your question in short, rehearsal days are definitely a part of it. Most people are seasoned professionals. They do this work all the time, but it's about doing it uniquely for each production and executing flawlessly. Just like if you were to have, a dance, you want to rehearse it and get all your steps just right so that when the audience is looking at it, it's flawless.
Yeah, it sounds like communication is key in everything that you do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
know, we talked about your professional journey, and just like everyone else, I'm sure along the way you have encountered different obstacles. Would you mind talking a little bit about how you have overcome obstacles along your journey, and maybe some advice for students of how they can overcome obstacles that they will potentially face in the future?
Sure. With any career, there are obstacles, but the career that I chose and the time I chose it, one of the biggest obstacles for me was it was a male-dominated field.
Mhm.
So, here I am, this woman, coming in, and I'm on the technical side. There were not a lot of women on the technical side of television production and engineering side of television production. So, you have to make sure your voice is heard. And my advice for overcoming that type of obstacle is to know your stuff. So
Mhm.
when you walk into the room, you're well studied and you know what you're talking about, and people will listen to you. If you're just in there, just guessing and not really sure of yourself, then that will show and people will not give you the attention you need. But if you really, study and make sure that you know everything you need to know and can contribute to the overall production, people will listen and you'll gain a reputation. And as that goes on in your career, you'll just be able to advance, based on that.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you mentioned reputation because, that's a word that we hear all the time, but your reputation really does precede you. And when you can make a good first impression and know that you're doing a good job, you know your stuff, and everyone in the room will take notice of that. And then no telling what doors and opportunities will open for you in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always tell the younger people today, the high school people, because social media is such a popular platform now. And, just be conscious of what you're putting on social media, because I know as a hiring manager, I hire people all the time. So I know that there are often times where I'll check someone's social media just to make sure that they're conducting themselves appropriately. And a lot of companies do that. So that's part of your reputation as well.
Absolutely. That is such good advice. And it's something that a lot of young people don't think about. When you're so young, you think, oh, my career is years away. But what you put on the internet stays for a long time.
Long time. Yes. It can come back to bite you. So just be very careful and be very conscious of it. Have fun, but don't get too crazy.
Yes, yes. So, one of my favorite questions to ask industry professionals is, what are some careers that you have discovered along the way that you had absolutely no idea existed when you were in high school?
Well, the one I'm in. I didn't know there was a such thing as a director of production operations. I really didn't. So when I walked in, like I said, when I walked into that studio as a high school student, all of that was brand new to me. And then along the way, as I've advanced through my career, I've noticed that, there are new jobs. There are new jobs all the time because now we have what we call the convergence of IT and broadcast.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is crossover. So I had a lot of friends when I was in college who were studying computer science and wanted to be programmers and things like that. I meet a lot of those people now in my work as a director of production operations, because we're looking at technology to have a higher broadcast signal, a higher, data rate for our broadcast signals. We're looking at, IP. So we're transferring video for IP instead of, the old standard videotape. All of our content now is recorded on digital servers. So we have to have people who can maintain those servers. So those are all careers that I never would have considered or didn't even know existed, as I was, pursuing this career or a career in television.
Yeah, and I think all throughout our lives, the more that we're exposed to different opportunities, it just seems to explode in front of us as all of the wealth of opportunities that are out there. And so I always try to challenge students to don't be so nailed down with one idea. Be willing to change and evolve and open to whatever possibilities come your way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell students all the time that you should try to expose yourself to as many different careers as possible. So like, look at the people around you, look at your family and look at your friends' families and what do they do and really understand what they do, because sometimes it'll surprise you what piques your interest and try to, get time with those people and just talk about their careers and you may find something that you never thought of that really drives your passion. And again, to me, that's key, really enjoying what you do.
Mhm. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Like you mentioned, when you sit down with someone, ask for advice, ask questions about what they do, and you never know what you might discover.
Right.
So the next question I have for you is, what is something that you wish you would have learned at a younger age?
I guess just what I just told you. I wish I had done a lot more exploring. Although I love what I do, I'm curious now what other opportunities I may have missed, but really, I would advise young people to get mentors,
Mhm.
find them early, and people don't have to know they're your mentor. You can just kind of really pay attention to them and, kind of follow along and understand, look at the people around you who are successful and try to model yourself after them.
There's so many successful people and really in every single community. And like you mentioned, they don't have to know that you're their role model or they're your role model or your mentor, but
Mhm.
really find someone that you want to look up to. I think that's great advice. So I have one more question for you, and then we have a few questions that were submitted by students, so we'll get to those
Great.
shortly. But my last question is, if there's students out there that are watching that are interested in a career in entertainment or broadcasting, what is something that they can do right now while they're still in high school to help prepare them for that future?
Read. Read articles, online. There's online magazines now. Educate yourself is one thing. Another thing is, again, try to gain that exposure. So if you're interested in television, they have these studios called local access stations. They're television stations where they look for volunteers because they want to train you
Mhm.
and to train you how to create content. Be involved in hobbies at your school, create a club. If one doesn't exist, create it. And that's another thing I tell people, don't be afraid to do something different and to think outside of the box and create your reality, right? If it doesn't exist and you look around and you want it, create it. you
Mhm.
know so again, just try to become active in the field now as much as you can and learn everything you can, because the more you know coming in, again, the better situated you'll be when it's time to pursue your career.
I love so much that you mentioned you cannot wait around on opportunities. You create them yourself. If they're not available, create them. Love that. Great. Okay, so a few questions that we have from students. I love some of these. The first one is, do you get to meet professional athletes in your career role?
I would, but right now we have the pandemic. So we do have the social distancing. And I will tell you, I've only been at ESPN for a year.
Okay.
And so 3 months after I started there, the pandemic hit. And I've been working pretty much remotely from that point on. But I mean, I do go in every now and then. But yeah, some of our talent is professional athletes or former professional athletes. So yes, to answer your question, yes, that's a very exciting part of any job in television is getting to meet the people. And sometimes it's very good and very rewarding. And sometimes people disappoint you, but that's okay. It's part of life.
That's true. So the next question we have is, what has been your favorite moment in your career?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. So I hope ESPN doesn't get mad at me, but my favorite moment in my career was working for Black Entertainment Television. And we were engaging in or embarking on the BET Awards. And unfortunately, it was the year that Michael Jackson passed away. And what happened, that was a major impact to our show. We had 6 hours of live programming scheduled that, again, all the planning that we had put into it, we were ready to execute 3 days out. He passed away and everything changed. So my favorite moment in my television career was that all of these teams had to come together and at the last minute completely change around, everything that we had planned and still execute. And we did so, and we did so flawlessly. And it was such a team effort because it was a really emotional time too, because, that he was a huge star and a lot of people had grown up listening to his music. A lot of people that work with us who were close with him had met him. So it was very difficult. And for everybody to work through that and to create, a flawless 6 hours worth of programming, it was really a inspiring moment in my career. So that was my favorite moment in my career.
Yeah, I can imagine that felt just like a huge accomplishment when all of these
Yeah.
teams work together to,
Yeah.
anytime that you're able to come together in the face of adversity and pull something off, it's an incredible feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even on a day to day, and I guess that's what I really love about my job too, is that every program is unpredictable, and especially if it's live, so when we get to the end of it and we've made it through successfully and we've had a good show, it's such a exhilarating feeling, and every day it's different and I
Yeah.
love it.
That sounds very exciting. So you mentioned earlier, and this is a great question to tie into this, about how you guys in operations make ideas come to life. So this question is, do you get to use your creativity in your job role?
Uh, Somewhat, but I get to use it differently. So in terms of creating content, not so much. I can make suggestions, and every now and then they'll listen, but my creativity comes more in finding ways to get things done. Finding ways to make things happen. So when they throw those last minute curveballs, finding a way to execute on their ideas without the appropriate resources and without the appropriate time. So you have to be creative in the way you utilize, your staff and the way you utilize the equipment that you have. So it's a different kind of creativity. Yes.
So creative problem solvers are the best kind of problem solvers.
Okay. Yeah.
So my next question is, what type of personality or characteristic is needed in order to succeed in your job role?
That's a really good question because it's really making me think about it, because I think a lot of different personalities would fit into the job role. It's a management role, so you're managing people. So definitely a sense of patience and
Mhm.
understanding and compassion is needed. But at the same time, you have to have the strength to say no and to guide people. And so it's a combination of, just having being calm, because a lot of times things can get frantic in television, especially when those last minute changes happen or equipment breaks down during a live production. So someone who has a sense of calm, a sense of self, someone who is confident and willing to, do whatever is needed, devoted, because it's a lot of long hours, and there's been live productions where we've had 14, 15-hour calls. So you know that you're going to be on, and you're on for 15 hours. It's not like you're sitting around. So yeah, so just dedicated, and someone who, is just really eager to have excitement in their lives. If you want an exciting career, go into television.
I love that. This is the last question that we have from students, and I think this is such a great one because people can connect with this. But
Mhm.
I'm not sure I want to go to college. Are there any job roles in the entertainment industry that do not require a college degree?
Of course there are. Of course there are. And in fact, in television, solid experience can be more valuable to us, but I don't want to advise people not to go to college, because I think college is good for you in so many ways, and it helps you grow in so many ways other than just a career. But sure, there are certainly roles that you can obtain, and they're more on the technical side, technical operator side. But if you want to go into management, definitely consider college for sure.
Yeah. I think education and experience partnered together. Of course, there's no better collaboration there, but I love that you mentioned experience, because so many times students will go to college and not work or not do internships and then just expect to get a great job with only their degree. But having that experience definitely give you an advantage every time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. Well, Erin, I have so much enjoyed talking with you today. You have had such wonderful words of wisdom. Is there any last minute advice you want to leave with our students before we end today?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Study. Just really study your craft, know your craft, understand what industry trends or whatever industry you decide to go into, study it and understand where it's going, and try to be a thought leader, try to get out in front of it, again, be creative in problem solving. So much to your point, April, creative problem solving. Every business either wants you to solve a problem or make them money, right? So know that as a motivation, and work from there, but really hone your craft.
Oh, I love it. Great advice. Thank you so, so much.
You're
And
very
thank you
welcome.
to everyone that tuned in. Be sure and check back every single week. We will have a new industry professional that you can learn wonderful advice from, just like we did tonight. So we'll see you next time.